introduce to you the faculty convener of Legal Aid Society Campus Law Center, Ma'am Anita Yadav. Dr. Anita Yadav is currently working as an assistant professor of law at senior scale at Campus Law Center, University of Delhi. Ma'am has an excellent academic track record, and she has won various awards and scholarships over the course of her academic life. Recently, in 2022, she received scholarship to attend International Law Association Benelier Conference at Lisbon, Portugal, as panelist member, wherein she spoke about vaccine nationalism and international law. In 2018, she received the United Nations Asia and Pacific Regional Course International Law Fellowship. Last but not the least, she is also the recipient of the prestigious Erasmus Mundus Fellowship to visit as a scholar at Georg August University of Göttingen, Germany. I now invite Ma'am to kindly address the session and also introduce our professor in charge of Campus Law Center, University of Delhi, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, Ma'am.
Thank you, Akshita. I hope I am audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
So a very good evening to one and all present here. I, Dr. Anita Yadav, faculty convener of Legal Aid Society at Campus Law Center, welcome you all in this awareness program organized by Legal Aid Society, Campus Law Center, University of Delhi, in collaboration with the Department of Palliative Medicine of Sir Ganga Ram Hospital, New Delhi, on a very pertinent issue on topic principle and legal aspect in palliative care. Friends, undoubtedly, it is one of the emerging area of practice and it holds a great potential. Through this awareness program, I'm sure that we are going to understand the various legal aspects of the palliative care and its importance. And today we have very experienced speaker to discuss on this pertinent issue. So without taking much time, let me take this opportunity to introduce my dearest professor in charge of Campus Law Center, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, ma'am. She's also a patron-in-chief for this awareness program. So dear friends, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, ma'am, is currently a professor in charge at Campus Law Center, University of Delhi. She's one of the renowned authority in copyright and IPR field. And it's a matter of honor for us that she has been listed twice in the top 100 powerful women in the law, which is released by World IP Forum in 2017 and 2021, respectively. Ma'am has also been nominated as a national expert on intellectual property by the European Trade and Business Council and served as a mentor to the Intellectual Property Protection Organization as an advisor to the National IP Organization and is a member of the Education Committee, FICCI. Professor Chawla is the recipient of a prestigious Teacher of the Year Award Female in 2018, which is given by the Indian National Bar Association. Ma'am is a very prolific writer and she has authored many books on copyright law published by Macmillan and LexisNexis and written a number of articles and research papers in reputed journals. Ma'am has delivered a lecture at various prestigious institutions, just to name a few: the George Washington University, US, University of Edinburgh, UK, Swiss Institute of Comparative Law, Switzerland, etc. With this, I welcome my professor in charge, ma'am, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, ma'am. I request you, ma'am, please deliver a welcome address for today's awareness program. Ma'am, you are on mute.
Is that fine? All
Yes,
right. So I was actually, while she was introducing me, I was looking at the great doctors sitting right in front of me. I can see two of you. So I think rather than me being introduced, they should have been introduced. And I would like, Anita, once I finish, you should tell us, what their specialities are. So with this, very, very good evening to all of you. We at Campus Law Center, I need to tell all those people who are sitting here that we are actually overwhelmed to be able to host a webinar on one of the emerging fields of medical sciences, that is palliative care and its legal aspect. Let me tell you, all the doctors sitting here, that whatever Anita might have said about me, but I had no clue as to what is palliative care. So I had to read a little about it to find out and not to look so ignorant in front of the doctors who are going to come and speak to all of us. But to tell about our Campus Law Center, we are one of the premier institutes which has produced great legal luminaries, judges of the Supreme Court, judges of the High Courts, prominent advocates, political leaders, legislators, bureaucrats, and trailblazers in all walks of life. So we are very proud to be a part of this prestigious institution. One of the main things that you can see today is that CLC is engaged in various initiatives and collaborations with the like-minded organizations and institutes that play a pivotal role in achieving the ultimate goal of holistic and quality legal education, making it a leading authority in the domain of versatile legal research and pedagogy. Today, we've all gathered on this platform. I wish next time, Anita, we must hold a physical mode. But today we've gathered on this platform to discuss on the principles and legal aspects in palliative care, as Anita said. And we all know, in fact, I only know after reading, that this is a special plan of care that is meant to relieve pain, provide comfort and dignity, and improve the quality of life of the person you're caring for. Now, this special care plan is put in place when a person has been diagnosed with a serious or life-limiting or terminal illness. Doctors, please, if I go wrong anywhere, you can stop me in between. Palliative care, again, is about improving the wellness, which according to me should not only include physical wellness, it should also include emotional, spiritual, social wellness of the patient. The problem is that whenever there is a good initiative, it is always associated with some risks of malpractices. I do not know whether it is very peculiar to a developing country like ours, or is it also the case in the developed nations that only the learned doctors are going to tell us. Therefore, I feel that in a country like ours, it is very, very important to have enabling laws, regulatory mechanisms, and professional medical guidelines. You know, in the words of Roger Bone, he said, dying can be a peaceful event or a great agony when it is inappropriately sustained by life support. Palliative care also at times is referred to as supportive care, and it includes end-of-life care, which can be withholding or withdrawal of life-sustaining treatments. Now, we all know as law students that euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide are not legal in India. In fact, this became talk of the town when an Indian nurse by the name Aruna Shabag's case, which was decided by the Supreme Court in 2011, where an Indian nurse spent 42 long years in a vegetative state after one sexual assault on her, and which recognized the possibility of legitimately withholding and withdrawing life-sustaining treatment, commonly called positive euthanasia. I'm reminded of one of the cases where the Supreme Court said there was a rape case and the Supreme Court reduced the sentence of the rapist, saying that it is only a one-time offense done by him. But Aruna Shabag's case is one which tells you that even one such assault can lead to a vegetative state for a woman. One assault is sufficient to take the life out of her. Anyway, we are not here to discuss that, but I remember we were young when this case came and how emotionally affected we were by the laws regarding euthanasia and the comparative comparisons which were made across countries to find out whether it is morally, physically, legally, ethically, whether it should be allowed or not. And again in 2018 came the Common Causes versus Union of India. The Supreme Court reaffirmed this position and also held that right to die with dignity was a part of the right to life under Constitution. The Supreme Court also recognized that advanced directives which allow patients to express their wishes for a time when they lack the capacity to make decisions and express their wishes was also legalized. However, we feel that these processes must take place according to the guidelines of the court, which have proven to be impossible to implement in the right direction. I'm sure that by the conclusion of this webinar, we shall be truly enriched with the nuances of this medical practice and legal obligations. That is how palliative care can be regulated by law and what are the legal aspects associated with this emerging medical practice, how legally sanctioned palliative care can bring about life-changing results in lives of terminally ill patients and their families. It is not only the patient which is important. Their families are more important than the patient, because that leads a mark on them for their lives to live. So I think a holistic attitude towards both the patient and the families has to be taken. I would like to conclude my address by welcoming all the guest speakers from Sir Ganga Hospital, New Delhi, Dr. Jayashree Sood. But I don't see Dr. Jayashree Sood here. Okay, yes, I see a smiling, nice face, Dr. Jayashree Sood. Dr. Bimla is the one who's sitting next to you.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see two doctors in support of each other together in one frame. So that shows that they care for each other, and they're definitely going to care for the patients that we are talking about. Dr. Puneet Rathore is also here. Sir, we can't see you. The ladies have taken the frame.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. So Dr. Puneet Rathore is here. This is Ms. Sunita Sharma. Mr. Hello, namaskar. Mr. Tushar Jain. So, yes, Tushar is in a separate frame, I think. All right. So, along with this, I would like to, appreciate and applaud our very active legal aid society, with the convener, as you all know, Dr. Anita is the convener, and there are teacher members also along with it. Dr. Narendra Kumar Bishnoi, Mr. Vijoy Panikar, Ms. Sneh Yadav, Dr. Atma Yadav, Mr. Isaacal Jaren, and last but not the least, our dearest students. I must tell the students that without them, we are nothing. So their participation is the most important thing in such webinars. So all my best wishes to all of you. God bless you all. And let's have a very fruitful discussion. And in fact, more than the discussion, we would like to be aware of what this palliative care is. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for your invaluable words. I now request Ma'am Anita Yadav to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Jayashree Sood, ma'am.
Thank you to my professor in charge for giving a welcome address. So it's my privilege to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Jayashree Sood, ma'am. So Dr. Jayashree Sood, ma'am, is a chairperson of the Institute of Anesthesiology, Pain and Pre-Operative Medicine, and a joint secretary of a board of management, and also a member of board of trustee at Sir Ganga Hospital, New Delhi. Ma'am has a numerous publication in journals and chapters in books to her credit. Dr. Jayashree Sood, ma'am, has received many awards in her career. Just to name a few, she received IMA Mendico Healthcare Excellence Award in 2019 in Excellence in Anesthesia Management at Hyderabad. She also won a Teacher Par Excellent Award in 2020, Best Teacher Award in 2018, and Best Academician Award in 2011 from Sir Ganga Hospital. With these few words, ma'am, I give the floor to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for those kind words of introduction. And good evening, everyone. Dr. Professor Alka. It was such an excellent introduction, I must say, that you really read about palliative and you sort of summed it up. And so true that palliative care is so important. And I'm so thankful to all of you to have given us the opportunity to bring our thoughts over to you. And it's a pleasure to be interacting with you all. And of course, I have a special, the law has a special place in my heart because my daughter-in-law is a lawyer. And so let's just start today's meeting by, of course, this is just a little program that we have put up, that I'll be just introducing the topic. And Dr. Puneet, who is our clinical assistant, soon to become a consultant, he'll be talking on end-of-life care. Then Dr. Bimla, who is the head, will be talking about the legal dilemmas, and Ms. Sunita on the nursing issues of end-of-life care, and Tushar, who is in another frame, he will be talking about the role of volunteers in palliative care. So as Professor Alka rightly mentioned, see, basically, palliative care, many people don't know what is palliative care. And what they know about it, they feel palliative care means only cancer patients and looking after cancer patients. But as you just heard, palliative care is not so. It is not only dealing with cancer, but also the life-limiting diseases. So that is now a big umbrella under which palliative care comes. So people who might be having all sorts of chronic diseases which limits their life, like chronic kidney diseases, heart diseases, liver diseases, patients with rheumatoid arthritis, all this comes under the care of the palliative team. So as WHO defined in 2009, of course, it has been defined a long time back, that palliative care is an approach that improves the quality of life of patients and their families. That's so important, facing the problem associated with life-threatening illness. So it's not only cancer, though the prevention and relief of suffering by means of early identification and impeccable assessment and treatment of pain, but along with pain, other problems, as we said, physical, psychosocial, and spiritual. So this really means that when we're talking about palliative care, it does not start, doesn't come into the picture in the end of the management of the patient, the latter half. It should start at the same time when the doctors are consulting their physicians for their life-limiting diseases. The physicians have to be aware that the palliative care should be started and initiated. So if you really look into the word palliative, what does it mean? Palliative is derived from the Latin word pallium, which means a cloak. As you can see there, it's like a garment which was worn by the Greeks. And so literally you are enveloping the patient and caring for him or her in all aspects. It means to cloak over, to protect, and lessen the intensity of harm or disease. And if you see the word hospitality, hospital, hospice, hostel, all these hospital are all derived from the Latin word hopes, which actually means a guest. So all these words have their own Latin and Greek, these things, terminologies, which from which they have been derived. So we might think that palliative care is possibly deficient only in our country, but it's not so. If you really see worldwide, they say, even now with the palliative care that is in advanced stages abroad in the West, 86% of people who need palliative care still do not receive it. Just imagine how the status is globally. And if you see what about India, and in India, they say an estimated 34 million people need palliative care. That means less than 1% have access. And actually, it is said that 1 million, we get 1 million new cases of cancer every year in our country. So this is the definition that I was talking about, right from 2009 by the WHO. You can see that? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Now we can see the slide, but you have to move the slide. Where are you addressing, ma'am?
Yeah, I'll move it. I'll move it. Yeah, yeah. So this was the slide I showed earlier, and this is how we're talking about the palliative care definition and the cloak. And this is what I was saying, that globally also 86% do not receive palliative care, which is a huge number, thinking that, yes, the West may be advanced, but no, it's not so. They are still lacking in palliative care. And what about India? In India, we say that an estimated 34 million people need palliative care, and less than 1% have access to it. And it is said that 1 million new cases of cancer are diagnosed every year in India. So you can imagine the whole load which actually requires palliative care to be given to them. Now, if you see these elements of palliative care, so it's a paradigm where you have so many things included. So if you have palliative care, it encompasses You must have an advanced care planning. You have to plan how you're going to manage these patients. You must have symptom relief, which is, of course, most important, because the medical relief, of course, the physicians are giving. But this symptom relief is very important. Have a caregiver support and the bereavement care, as you will see in the later lectures that are taken by my staff, that how it is so important to give this. And this bereavement goes on even after, unfortunately, the demise of the patient. And then, of course, the spiritual and the existential care that is very, very important. So just to tell you a little about the department, we did start the palliative care services in 2007. So it was a team which was interested in palliative care, a multidisciplinary team, including the anesthesiologists, the physicians, and then we had the cardiologists. And most importantly, of course, our students are always there who have been added, but our palliative care nurses, which were sanctioned to us, and they've been working with us right from that time, and they are there, and they have done so much for palliative care. So this is the multidisciplinary team that you can see over there. And gradually what happened after about 4 years, the Department of Palliative Medicine was recognized by our hospital, and now we have a full-fledged department with Dr. Bimla Sharma, actually an anesthesiologist, is now head of medicine. I can vouch that the anesthesiologist is the right person to take this forward. Dr. Puneet Rathore, he is a postgraduate from All India Institute and is working with us. Dr. Pratibha is our dynamic first-year postgraduate student. We have DNB post-graduation in our hospital, and she's our first-year student. And these two young ladies, Sunita and Monica, are the staff nurses who I am talking about, the very dynamic girls who are really the backbone of our department. And this is just and this is just to inform you all that our department has been working forward not only with the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, but with the Lion Collaborative Society of Palliative Care, as well as the Asia Pacific Hospice Palliative Care Network. And they have been attending conferences, and they have been coming to our hospital and interacting with us. With this small introduction, short introduction, I would now like our next lecture by Dr. Puneet, who will be talking about end-of-life care.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your insightful words. I would now request Ma'am Anita Yadav to kindly introduce our second speaker, Dr. Puneet Rathore, sir.
Thank you, Akshita. So next we have Dr. Puneet Rathore, sir, who is a senior resident in Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. Sir has been with our faculty in several training sessions and has a numerous publication in various journals in his name. And sir area of interest is palliative care, acute chronic pain, and end-of-life care. Sir has received a Bruce Davis Gold Medal in 2017, has also been awarded for the best paper presentation in IAP Con 2020. So with this, I welcome Dr. Puneet Rathore, sir.
So after the brief introduction on palliative care, I'll be talking about the brief on end-of-life care. So what basically end-of-life care is and how palliative care will help us in this regard. End-of-life and palliative care aims basically to help you if you have a life-limiting or a life-threatening illness. The focus of this type of care is basically managing symptoms and providing comfort and assistance. This includes help with emotions and mental health, spiritual and social needs, apart from the physical needs which we see. End of life and palliative care helps us practically, it provides practical help with daily tasks as well. The goal is to improve your quality of life and that of your family, friends, and caregivers and families. End of life and palliative care is based on what your needs are. If you have an illness that cannot be cured and will lead to the end of your life, so what will be the answer to this situation? The answer will be a good end of life and a good palliative care. So why a good end? See, from the ancient times, you must have seen right from 15th century, 16th, 17th century, Our lifespan was, the median range was around 35 to 45. Why? Because many pandemics came, various disease came, and we did not have modern technology and modern medicine. But as time passed, due to the advent of better medicines, advanced investigation, new chemotherapeutic, radiotherapeutic treatment, modern technology, we can see that the lifespan has drastically increased. It has nearly reached around a median of 75 years, and India, it's nearly about 65 to 70. So, what does this more lifespan lead to? Well, it will obviously lead to more complex diseases, various communicable diseases such as hypertension coming up, various diabetes coming up, cancer coming up, non-limiting diseases coming up. So what is the outcome? What will all these diseases lead us to? We all know what the outcome is. So if given a chance to plan last few months or days of your life, where, how, and with whom would you like to spend that time? It's a very important question to ponder. We all must see to this slide very carefully, and we must actually think over it. Well, what is the answer which most of us will give? Well, the answer is most of us would really wish to die at home. Home. Why? Because we will be surrounded by a near and dear ones, and we would just want a peaceful death where, like what we imagine, like we just see that we sleep and death comes and we can go, right? But what is the actual reality? Majority of patients, they land up in ICU. In this picture, everything defines. You are there in ICU. It's isolated, lot of machines, lot of tubes, no family members, just the doctors or the nurses or the caregivers. So, one of my teacher, she told me this, and I wish to share this, that all of us will die in agony, even the rich, the middle class, and the low class. No one will be spared. The high class will die in agony that should I have gone with aggressive management? Or should I have opted for just symptomatic management? The middle class will be running. I wish I had money so that I could have put up my patient in the ICU. Shayad, he would have been saved. Well, the low class people, they don't have money and they accept that are there. So everyone die in agony. No one has a plan. No one has made a, for example, advance will or advance directive, like how his death wants to be. So all of us deserve a dignified death. So what is a good death or a dignified death? Good death is one that is free from avoidable distress and suffering for patients, not only the patient but their families and caregivers, in general accord with patients and families' wishes and reasonably consistent with clinical, cultural, and ethical standards. So what are the principles of good death? To know when death is coming, we should be empowered enough to understand what can be expected, to be able to return control of what will happen to us, to have choice and control over where death occurs, to have access to any spiritual or emotional support if required, to be able to issue advance directive planning beforehand, and most important, we should have the time to say goodbye to all of our loved and dear ones. So, well, provision of good end of life care policies should be the need of the hour for all the hospitals in the country, but there are just few in the country which have really been able to make these policies. To mention AIMS and Manipal Hospital are one of those few who have made. Gangaram is on a verge to create a good end of life care policy. But uh, what if the medical treatment is futile? Futile, what do you mean by that? When, for example, when life expectancy is expected to be in around days to weeks, any condition where clinicians predict a very low chance of meaningful survival and purposeful life. For example, post cardiac arrest with poor neurological outcome, brain dead patients who are not suitable for organ donation. So, what will happen? In simple words, what will happen to those patients who can't be cured with all the modern technologies and treatment? So in these cases, what we need to do, we need to best determine and think of what is the best interest for the patient. Determining what the patient's pre-existing description of acceptable quality of life was, what he wanted. whether advance will was signed by the patient, whether he had planned how his death should be there, whether he wants just peaceful death or he wants aggressive death in ICU. Review the benefits and risk of each reasonable interventions, whether this intervention will be of any use or it is of no use. Characterize the risk and degree of suffering and pain associated with any intervention. Give the expected prognosis with and without treatment, both in terms of survival and longer term consequences. Well, but is it really easy to make decisions? Is the doctor really empowered? Is he guarded by law? Well, there are tough questions. These are tough questions, and these are big dilemmas in decision making, especially at the terminal end or the end of life care. So, coming to the most interesting session, dilemma in decision making at the end of life care will be dealt by Dr. Bimla Sharma. Ma'am, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your invaluable words. I now request Ma'am Anita Yadav to introduce our third speaker, Dr. Bimla Sharma, ma'am.
Thank you, Akshita. So our next eminent speaker we have among us, Dr. Bimla Sharma, ma'am, who is a founding member, trustee, and fellow of the Indian College of Anesthesiologists, and is currently a senior consultant and vice chairperson in Institute of Anesthesiology, Pain, Perioperative Medicine, and also a head of palliative medicine. Ma'am is also a regional coordinator of the Indian College of Anesthesiologists for Delhi and NCR. She has several national and international papers and books to her credit. So, ma'am, I give the floor to you.
Thank you for your kind introduction. And again, a very good evening to Professor Alka Chawla, Professor in charge, Campus Law Center, Dr. Anita Yadav, and other senior faculty members and student law faculty. At the outset, I would like to thank both of you for to agree to this virtual advocacy and education webinar, introduction and legal aspects of palliative care. Also, we thank Dr. Jayashree Sood for being a mentor to us. She is always with us in our endeavor in bringing about public awareness drive among our professionals in and outside the hospital. Palliative care is a new branch, a new specialty that is a nascent origin and is only 30 years old in India. In my talk on legal aspects of palliative care, my talk will be limited to end of life care as it is quite a pressing issue. It is an acute setting. However, the same principle can be applied to general palliative care. And let me confess in the beginning itself that we doctors, most of us are naive in this field of legal issues. And as such, I can see that I can make out that we have a very informed audience, and it is going to be a learning experience for me as well as, so it is going to be a two-way traffic. So coming to the topic of legal issues in end-of-life care, uh, certain definitions. End-of-life care, it is a multidisciplinary approach to provide whole person care. So coming to the definition of end-of-life care, this is a multidisciplinary approach to provide whole person care. So no talk on palliative care can be complete without the mentioning Dame Cicely Saunders. She was a social worker. She was a nurse who later on became a doctor, and she was the one who spearheaded the hospice movement in UK. And she was the first one, to establish a hospice. First modern hospice was established in 1967, and it was the St. Christopher's Hospice in London. And she was, she contributed a lot in this the field of palliative care. And she was, she was looking after the dying patients who were suffering from cancer. And that was a time that, of course, the palliative care was not there, and the physicians who were treating these cancer patients, when nothing could be offered to the patients, they were sent home to die. So she was the one who really took care of them. So we know that all human beings, we are mortals, and hence death is an inevitable occurrence. And we are all going to die at some or the other point. And advancement in the medical technology are changing the norms of natural death, and especially in the metros. Like we hardly see, any death, taking at home. Patients, they are usually admitted to the hospital, and very frequently they'll be, as Dr. Puneet mentioned, many of them will be shifted to the ICU care, intensive care units. They'll be on ventilators and blood pressure support. They'll have tube inserted everywhere, and I mean that's how they die. Because medical interventions such as artificial nutrition and respiratory support can prolong the lives of people by providing secondary support. And so as a result, what happens? We know that the healthcare costs are rising, and many patients go against, they leave the hospital against the medical advice, and this is also known as LAMA. So, but in the Indian context, it means that the patient's family seeking unilateral, withdrawal of medical support. And this is an option very frequently chosen by the patient's relatives with the tacit support of the physicians. And this results in painful and agonizing death, which is against human dignity. And high cost, non-availability of end-of-life care, and the other burdens are the usual causes of, patients going as LAMA. So this slide shows, about the quality of death index, how, how we are treating our dying patients. And there have been several studies in this aspect. There was a study in 2010, the economic intelligence the 40 countries, and they were 2005 and India 67 out of 80 countries. And then there was a recent study in 2021 where our rank was 59 out of 81 countries. So we have made some improvement. We have a long way to go in this regard. There was this Lancet commission on the value of death, and this was published in 2022. And they came out with that the story of dying in the 21st century is a story of paradox. And we have, the memory of COVID is still, we know it's very difficult to forget the sad movements, most of us experienced. And so this unbalanced and contradictory picture of death and dying is the basis for this Lancet Commission on the value of death. We had patients who were hospitalized, they were on ventilators, but they died there alone without the presence of their near and dear ones. Then there were others who were brought into the hospital, and otherwise also in underdeveloped countries. We do have deaths where people are dying because of starvation or because of infectious diseases. So the commissioners, they argued that death and life are bound together. Without death, there would be no life. And the commission proposed a new vision for death and dying, that there should be greater community involvement along with health and social care services, and we do need increased bereavement support. So bereavement support is provided even after the patient's death, so that to the family caregivers. Okay. So I told you about the quality of death index. So this is a way to compare the healthcare services regarding death which are provided by different countries. And this was the Lancet Commission on the value of death. Just now I spoke about it. And coming to the legal framework. So in India, there's only one law which deals with end-of-life care, and that is the Human Organ Transplant Act 1994, and later on modified in 2011. And we all know that the right to life, euthanasia, and suicides, they have been the subject of much debate. And most physicians, because there are no clear-cut guidelines, most physicians, they adopt defensive medicine because of the fear of litigation. And as a result, patients with terminal illnesses, they receive unnecessary medical interventions, and therefore there is no smooth transition to death with dignity and grace. So this refers to the interventions that are unlikely to produce any significant benefit for the patient. And this concept of medical futility has been there, in the in the ancient times also. Hippocrates counseled clinicians not to treat patients who were overmastered by their diseases. That means the patients were in, almost, dying patients. So whatever, treatment you may give, it is not going to help the patient. So he cautioned the physicians not to treat, not to take too advanced measures or, for this dying patients. So it is like a bucket of water which is leaking. So you keep on adding water, but the bucket will not hold. So similarly, whatever treatment you give to this thing, it is not going to help it. So another important term is withdrawing and withholding. So ethical dilemmas approaching the end of life commonly revolve around decisions to withhold or withdraw interventions or treatment. And the four most common treatments which need attention are artificial hydration, nutrition, ventilatory therapy, and antibiotics. So normally when a person is healthy, he drinks water or he takes food by mouth. But in these sick patients, say a patient with head and neck cancer, unable to take anything by mouth, will be dehydrated, will be malnourished. So in many of these patients, we use artificial means where either an intravenous line is put to hydrate them and feed, or we may put in a tube either through the nose, or a hole is made in the abdomen through which the tubes are, passed and the patients are fed. Similarly, if the patient is not breathing well, the respiration is grossly inadequate, then we might have to put them on machine to support their respiration. And we all know that these patients in their terminal stage are very sick, their immunity is very low, and they are very prone to infection. So they need antibiotics for that. Now coming to euthanasia, the House of Lords Select Committee on Medical Ethics defines euthanasia as a deliberate intervention undertaken with the express intention of ending a life to relieve intractable suffering. And as palliative physicians, or rather as medical doctors, we are very averse to it. We don't want that any patient should ask for euthanasia, because as we can see in the definition, it is, when the patient is suffering from intractable suffering, then the patients, they want to die, then they, may opt for euthanasia. So it is a very, very bad reflection on the medical, services which are offered to the patient. And it can be further divided into voluntary, involuntary, and non-voluntary euthanasia. So voluntary euthanasia is when the patient, a competent patient makes an informed request for a life-terminating event. And involuntary, if the patient does not give informed and specific consent for such treatment, and it is the occurrence of involuntary euthanasia which forms one of the main arguments against its legalization. So euthanasia can be active or passive. In active euthanasia, a person, generally a physician, administers a medication like a sedative or a neuromuscular blocking drug, so that to end, intentionally end a patient's life at the mentally competent patient's explicit request. And passive euthanasia occurs when a patient suffers from an incurable disease and decides not to apply life-saving, life-prolonging treatment such as artificial nutrition or hydration. So this non-voluntary euthanasia is when a person is not competent to make a decision and consent is given for ending his life. And here, who is giving the consent? A surrogate or proxy decide to end the life in the person's best interest. In the Netherlands, it is called lawyer, that is life-ending acts without explicit request. So another term is physician-assisted death or the physician-assisted suicide. And here, a physician provides medication or a prescription to a patient at the patient's explicit request, understanding that the patient intends to use the medications to end his or her life. And PAD is legal in several countries. Now, coming to the other legal matters. So whenever a patient or an individual approaches end of life, then many legal issues may arise, including medical decisions, financial and estate planning decisions, and also care of the dependents. So planning in advance for all these issues is going to be very, very helpful. Now, coming to the right to life, and this is right to life is a primary natural right of the human being, and this fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution states that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty. And this right obligates the state to ensure good quality of life for its people. And earlier, whether the right to die comes under the right to life or not was a question, but I mean, this thing has been answered now. And the right to die and this issue of right to die was discussed for the first time in Delhi High Court in State versus Sanjay Kumar Bhatia case in 1985, when a young boy had committed suicide out of frustration and was charged under Section 309 of the Indian Penal Code. So the court discussed the system's inadequacy, and it was said that the continuation of Section 309 was anachronistic and unworthy of a humane society. And in 2018, the Supreme Court held that Article 21 of the Constitution guarantees a person's right to die with dignity. So, what is the legal status of euthanasia in India? In India, it is a crime, it is illegal, and Section 309 of the Indian Penal Code deals with the attempt to commit suicide, and Section 306 of the Indian Penal Code deals with abetment of suicide. Both actions are punishable, and only those who are brain dead can be taken off life support with the help of family members in India. So the Law Commission in 2006, in its 196 report, recommended a law to protect terminally ill patients who refuse medical treatment, artificial nutrition, or hydration from Section 309 of IPC. And we all know that in a particular community, in Jain community, it is very, very normal, for, several, it has been seen that elderly person in the family decides, to not to live any further, and the person refuses nutrition, hydration. So it is a kind of voluntary, death, but this is not, illegal in our system. And you may correct me if you feel I'm wrong anywhere. And the doctors who manage terminally ill patients or make decisions for incompetent patients in their best interest must be protected from punishment under 306 of the IPC. And the Law Commission suggested that the law be called Medical Treatment of Terminally Ill Patients Act 2016. So the Law Commission report also observed that euthanasia is a criminal offense, but withholding or withdrawing treatment in end-of-life care does not amount to an attempt to commit suicide. And however, not many people know about it, and even if they know, our medical fraternity is, very, very careful. I mean, they are very hesitant to practice, this withholding and withdrawing treatment. And this Law Commission report also differentiated between a competent and incompetent patient. An incompetent patient is either a minor or an adult with an unsound mind who cannot make decisions after giving appropriate information or cannot communicate his or her decision. And it was recommended that the treating doctor must not withhold or withdraw treatment unless the opinion of 3 medical practitioners has been obtained. Now, we all know about the Anita Sharma case. Dr. Chawla also mentioned about it. She was a nurse working in the KM Hospital, young nurse, KM Hospital, Bombay, when she was sexually assaulted when she was on duty. She was strangulated. So as a result, she became hypoxic. That is, there was oxygen lack in the body, and the brain suffered, permanent injury. And in 2001, the Supreme Court addressed euthanasia or mercy killing for the first time in Anita Sharma case. And in this landmark judgment, the apex court discussed euthanasia at length and allowed passive euthanasia in certain conditions, subject to approval by the High Court, following a recommendation by a committee of 3 doctors. So it defined passive euthanasia as a deliberate withdrawal or treatment causing a patient's death. And here, I'll be talking about it later that we doctors are in disagreement. We want, we treat euthanasia and, withdrawal or withdrawing of treatment, as separate issues. So it held that the court is the parent of the nation and has the power to decide what is best for the patient and extended the power to High Court under Article 226. So in the Adnan Shanbag case, the Supreme Court recognized the possibility of legitimately withholding and withdrawing life-sustaining treatment when the patient loses healthcare decision-making capacity for the first time. So in the Common Cause versus Union of India, the court allowed withholding the life support or medical treatment of the patients without any hope of recovery. And the court also recognized the need for creating a living will and laid down specific guidelines regarding the procedure for execution of advanced directives or the living will and guidelines related to passive euthanasia. And the court's directive and the guidelines shall remain in force until the parliament brings legislation into this field. Now, coming to the advanced care planning, uh, I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So, advanced care planning is a process that supports adults at any age or stage of life or in understanding and sharing their lives, sharing their values, life goals, and preferences regarding future medical care. So, it is a set of instructions about the future medical care of a patient in the event he or she is unable to communicate and cannot make decisions for whatever reason. And this is a document which should be updated regularly, and it is a process, not an event, reducing confusion and conflict. Regardless of the clinical scenario, advanced care planning should be proactive, appropriately timed, and integrated into routine care. In addition, advanced care planning should be revisited every time a person's medical condition changes. And in India, we call it the advanced directive is also known as the living will. So this advanced care planning helps patients define their wishes regarding care, like do not resuscitate in case the patient, the blood pressure drops, the heart stops beating, then do not make any effort to resuscitate. Do not intubate, that is when we pass a tube into the patient's windpipe, and we allow the natural death should be allowed. And so all these things are thought and best done in advance of severe illness. And also one should appoint a surrogate decision maker. And in the West, reimbursement, is also allowed for, because you have to go to a lawyer for advanced care planning and for, getting a living will made. So living will, that's the law in India, in order dated 22nd January 2020, the Supreme Court directed the Union of India to convene a meeting of stakeholders to reach consensus regarding modifications to its guidelines. However, this meeting has not been convened so far. And so in the current legal status is that the use of an advanced directive, now it has been validated, and through advanced directive, a person with a sound mind and capacity can communicate that the treatment can be withheld or withdrawn under certain circumstances. And the experts are from general medicine, cardiology, neurology, nephrology, psychiatry, or oncology. So the court has also laid out procedures for modifying advanced directives and cases without advanced directives. So presently, the Supreme Court's verdict on the 9th March 2000 would be valid and binding on the medical system. And the verdict reinforces the value of life and avoids death as an inevitable consequence. Though the system was designed to prevent abuse, but it has prevented the practical use However, this procedure outlined by the court is also relevant when treating doctors and family members with conflicting opinions. So doctors and the family may, however, agree to follow guidelines laid out by the Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine in 2012. Now, coming to the guidelines given by the Supreme Court for withdrawing or withholding of the treatment. So, patients with terminal illness in whom treatment is not going to improve the outcome. So, these patients could be competent patients who can refuse treatment, or these could be non-competent patients. And for these non-competent patients, the advance directive may be present or it may be absent. So in case the advance directive is present, then you have to ascertain the genuineness of the advance directive from the magistrate first class. And then in the event, if the competent patient also refuses medical treatment, then the medical board has to be constituted in the hospital with head of the department as a unit head of the department, and then there should be 3 medical experts, and they will visit patient and family or the surrogates to certify whether to withdraw or withhold the treatment. So if it is yes, then the judicial collector constitutes the medical board. So the first one was the internal board, and now the second is the external board, where the chief medical officer is going to be the chairman, and then 3 medical experts will be required again, and they will visit the patient or the family members or the surrogate. And if it is a no, then you have to continue the treatment, whatever is being given to the patient. So again, if it is considered that it is futile, then the judicial magistrate first class is, the message is information is conveyed, and he will visit the patient and decide for withdrawal of the treatment. And if it is decided that medical futility is not to take place, then the family, the surrogate, or the hospital staff may obtain permission from the High Court through the writ petition under section 226. So we see that it is a quite a tedious process. And so the problems with this judgment are that the judicial magistrates of the first class, in the presence of whom an advanced medical directive must be executed, are not aware of their duties under this judgment. And the process of withholding or withdrawing, though it is important that we should have law in place. Otherwise, they can be misused. But the process is complex and is not workable. Until date, no hospital has been able to implement the mandated procedure. And so therefore, the healthcare professionals are unsure of the appropriate course of action at the end of life care. So there is legality of withholding and withdrawal of life support, but unfortunately, it has been termed passive euthanasia. And it prescribes a procedure of securing approval from the court. So this may be appropriate for a patient in a persistent vegetative state, like the patient is there in that state for months, at times years also, but it is not feasible in a patient in whom death is imminent in a week or a couple of days. So what are the developments since the Supreme Court judgment? So Manipal Group of Hospitals and All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, have developed their own internal guidelines on end-of-life care. And we at Ganga Hospital, and I read even, the doctors at Wadia Hospital, Children's Wadia Hospital in Bombay, they are also making an attempt, to develop their internal guidelines. And the Indian Council of Medical Research has issued consensus guidelines on do not attempt resuscitation. And the Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine has filed an application for clarification in the Supreme Court, requesting a modification of the Supreme Court's guideline in Common Cause versus Union of India. Now there has been an attempt has been made by the ALICET, that is the End of Life Care India Task Force, and Vidhi Center for Legal Policy to have another version, and that is the version 2. So it has 3 steps. The step 1 is that the treating doctor is of the opinion that initiating, continuing, or escalating life-sustaining treatment will be potentially non-beneficial to the patient, or the treating doctor is of the opinion that the patient is in a persistent vegetative state. And either of these options, as the case may be, this has been confirmed by at least 2 doctors not directly involved in the case of the patient. So then you have to initiate discussion on withdrawing or withholding the sustaining treatment and provision of end-of-life care. So the step 2 is you have to find out whether the patient possesses healthcare decision-making capacity. So if it could be yes or no, and if it is yes, then determine patient's wishes and preferences regarding life-sustaining treatment and record them as medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. And continue to review and update medical orders for life-sustaining treatments as long as the patient exercises healthcare decision-making capacity, and implement medical orders for life-sustaining treatment in accordance with recognized professional standards, irrespective of any advanced planning instruments that may have been executed by the patient. And if it is no, then you have to find out whether the patient possesses healthcare decision-making capacity. And if it is yes, then give effect to the advanced directive. And if it is no, then find out has a surrogate been appointed through a valid medical power of attorney. And if it is yes, then take end-of-life care decision through shared decision making. And if it is no, then is a next friend of the patient available? And again, if it is no, then approach chief medical officer to appoint social worker to act in the capacity of the next kin. So now coming to what are the future implications? So the judiciary, the government, the medical profession, and the civil society has to come together to formulate a comprehensive end-of-life care legislation, which is very much needed. And we also have to establish explicit guidelines for surrogate therapy, and all hospitals should implement a protocol to guide withholding or withdrawal of life-sustaining treatment. And the hospital should also implement the do not attempt resuscitation guidelines issued by the Indian Council of Medical Research. And we must integrate palliative care services with our routine healthcare system. And the insurance companies, they should also cover end-of-life care and palliative care services. Thank you very much. So now I request Sister Sunita, our nursing officer, to talk about the home care issues.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful words. I request the students, if any of the students have any questions, you may post it in the chat box. We'll be taking it towards the end of the session. I now request Ma'am Anita Yadav to kindly introduce Ma'am Sunita Sharma.
Yes. Thank you, Akshita. So we have next Ms. Sunita Sharma, ma'am, who is a nursing officer, palliative care coordinator in Sir Ganga Ram Hospital, New Delhi. And ma'am's area of interest include the palliative care nursing. So with this, I welcome Sunita Sharma, ma'am.
Yes. Good evening, all. Today my topic is home care for palliative patients. So we deliver palliative care in 3 settings: hospital, hospice, and home care. So first we know the wish of the patient. It is important to honor the patient wish, where the patient wants to die. Sometimes patient said, I want to die in home. I want my wife with near to me. I want the priest on to help me pray. Tell my friends to forgive me. No life support for me, or I want to die in hospital without aggressive treatment. So communication is very important. Without communication, we can't counsel the patients for home care. So our communication should be honest and truthful, providing a clear information to family. Simple, understandable language we use, and communication style is good. In communication, first we know how much family know about the disease and how much patient know. If family hide the things or situation, then we separately counsel patient and family. So बहुत difficult हो जाता है सेपरेट फैमिली को और पेशेंट्स को काउंसिल करना. सो हम फैमिली को बोलते हैं कि आप धीरे धीरे पेशेंट को डिसीज के बारे में अवेयर करो, अदरवाइज आपका पर्सनल रिलेशन जो है वो डिनाइल में हो जाएगा. तो पेशेंट जो है वो कोऑपरेट नहीं करेगा. पेशेंट बार बार आपसे पूछेगा कि आप मुझे हॉस्पिटल बार बार लेके क्यों जाते हो. तो बेस्ट है कि एट द टाइम ऑफ डायग्नोज अगर दोनों को फुल इंफॉर्मेशन है तो कम्युनिकेशन करना बहुत ईजी हो जाता है. So what is home care? Home care is a healthcare or supportive care provided by a professional caregiver in the patient's home. Or in the we also know the domiciliary care, social care, or a home care. So some patients may need supportive care, wound care, symptom management, and end of life care. We got the cases by referral from the different unit, or patient direct comes under palliative care. So why home care is important? A person home provides a heightened level of comfort and sense of security. It promotes, restore and maintain a maximum level of comfort, function and health, including or towards dignifying death. So first of all, when we receive a reference, we assess the patient, and as per the patient condition, we prepare a nursing care plan. We prepare a equipment list in which helps in home care. Suppose if patient is cosmetized, so we prepare a list of oxygen cylinder, suction machine, in each and everything. If patients have already in home, then no issue. Otherwise, we prepare, we give a vendor number, and we monitoring. Vitals monitoring and pain is also a fifth vitals. So we manage the pain, we care the skin, we assess the patient head to toe. If there is a bite sore, we explain how to take care of the bite sore, and we explain the oral care. जब हम पेशेंट्स को एग्जामिन करते हैं तो पेशेंट को हम बोलते हैं कि एक बार अपना माउथ ओपन करके दिखा. तो समटाइम क्या होता है, आफ्टर रेडिएशन पेशेंट को अल्सर होते हैं, पेशेंट नॉट एबल टू ईट, पेशेंट हैविंग पेन. सो ओरल केयर का हम लोग एक अलग से सेपरेट एक मैजिक वॉश बनाते हैं. विद इन 2 days के अंदर पेशेंट के अल्सर डिसॉल्व हो जाते हैं एंड पेशेंट कंफर्टेबल हो जाता है. एंड वी टेक केयर ऑफ पेशेंट न्यूट्रिशन नीड, oral need, anti-feed, back feed, and lice stool. Bowel and bladder care. If patients having stomach bag, how to change the stomach and how to take care of stomach, we explain. And we also empower the family to how to take care of patients in home-based care. Administration of drugs, suction, oral and cosmetized, and oxygen administration. And the end of life care, we counsel the family in detail as per the patient present condition and the disease progression. In Sir Ganga Hospital, we have a reach out service to provide best quality of home care by a professional team. Other service, we attach patient to an NGO. It's called Cancer Support, which works Delhi, NCR, Gurgaon, and Meerut. And second care is hospice care. Hospice care is a health care that focuses on the palliation of a terminally ill patients, and which they manage the pain and symptom and attending to their emotional and spiritual needs of end of life care. In Delhi, we have a Shanti Avedna Ashram near Safdarjung Hospital, and Rishikesh Ganga Ram Hospice. In Vrindavan, Bhakti Vedna Hospice. So conclusion, palliative care at home is also intended for individuals who would like more consistent care plan instead of being treated at a hospital or nursing home setting with different care givers. The option of palliative care at home gives them the opportunity to bond with one-on-one caregivers and their stimulate care plan. So हम लोग होम केयर के अंदर यही प्लान करते हैं कि जो केयर गिवर है, अगर एक ही केयर गिवर है तो वो पेशेंट की बहुत अच्छे से केयर करेगा. अगर डेली का डेली केयर गिवर चेंज होंगे, केयर गिवर्स वो जो उन्होंने हायर किए हुए होते हैं, अगर वो डेली चेंज करेंगे तो पेशेंट को कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव नर्सिंग केयर नहीं मिल पाएगी. Some of the other benefit of choosing in home palliative care includes greater peace of mind and comfort for the patient and their caregivers. This also means reduced trips to the emergency room or expensive medical care and nursing home stay. So I think everyone know him. Plan your life so that you can live fully. Plan your death so that you can die peacefully. Now we have to create a system where we want to die in home with all our loved ones, or ICU setting with all tubings and full support of ventilator. So bed treatment available, 100% relief, humanity. The power of healing does not lie in just prescribing drugs. What is essentially required is caring for the patients. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful words. I now request Ma'am Anita Yadav to introduce Mr. Tushar Jain.
Thank you, Akshita. Can I request Bimla ma'am to mute her mic?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So thank you, Akshita, for giving me a floor. So now we have come to the last speaker of this session, Mr. Tushar Jain. So Tushar Jain Tushar has coordinated everything to conduct this program. So thank you, Tushar, for coordinating and about this program. So about Tushar, Tushar is a BTech in biotechnology and currently is working as an assistant manager healthcare solution at Quantify, a SaaS-based product company in Gurgaon. He has been associated as a volunteer with the Department of Anesthesia Palliative Medicine at Sir Ganga Ram Hospital for past 3 years, spearheading their social outreach program. So, Tushar, we welcome you. Now, floor is yours.
Thanks, Dr. Yadav, and thanks to the entire Gangaram team for always being so supportive. For me, okay, so we have some questions also coming up, so I won't take much of time. We'll take just hardly a few minutes. So for me, presenting here, even a small talk at CLC is very special. 40 or 41 years back, my mother was a student at CLC, but then because of her personal commitments, she had to leave her studies and then get into marriage and everything. Of course, that was not the reason for having a session coordinated there, but yeah, makes me feel special. My topic today to present is about role of volunteers in palliative care, or basically in social impact projects. So I believe a lot of you must have been working in some or the other projects. To our mind is that why we want to volunteer. So volunteering is very important in terms of I mean, it completely depends on a person to person. It's very subjective. It depends on what you wish to do in your life. Sometimes I would say when we are doing a regular work, we tend to find little time to contribute to issues or initiatives which can add a difference to others' life. So to be able to contribute to a project in which it can make some difference to someone's life, maybe as educating some children, maybe working with some old age homes, maybe anything else, or maybe working for animals for that matter. Everything can makes what a volunteer is. So what is volunteering in palliative care? So it is basically the time which is freely given by individuals with no expectation of financial gain or some organized structure to people to improve basically their quality of life, be it children or be it adults, right? And it can be in any way. You can be just spending time with them or just making some arrangements for them. Usually the volunteers can be are usually the people who are, like, say, married or employed person, and then the people who are full-time working in this space, and there are ones who are working part-time. I see a lot. I cannot see many except for Anita ma'am. Yes. There was one particular who you can work with all the Shanti Avedna and all the other ashrams, also hospice care centers, if you wish to contribute to palliative care. What I'm presenting over here is a short study which was conducted by Tata Memorial Hospital. What are the motivating factors for them? What are the nature of challenges they find, and what is the impact of their work? So, before coming on to work, I probably picked up volunteering and working with Gangaram. So I always wanted to contribute to social impact projects, especially old age people. And started reading about it, looking for opportunities. There were act comedy have been performed by some old people who were suffering from dementia. This happened in Pune, and I read about it. What is reached out to multiple hospitals, and I thought that there is a need in this area. And the biggest thing is that, matter, just leave it. It's that Gangaram is to actually, as Dr. Anita mentioned, is to spearhead their social media and also the social initiatives of this department. So I hope my screen is visible. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So this is the work done in the past 3 years. So we have conducted similar webinars at schools in Delhi. This is about one of the schools, that Manav Study School. Then there's at Santosh Medical College. We have also presented at IIT Delhi. Recently, we also presented at NSUT at Dwarka. We every year, and this year also, we celebrate World Palliative Care Day, where we conduct a motley of competitions to generate awareness amongst the youth. So this is some glimpse from the past events. Here you can see the students from different medical colleges in Delhi, Maulana Azad Medical College, RML, and others who performed a beautiful skit. She is next to the director of the hospital, along with the staff nurse, presenting a prize to the winner of one of the competitions. We have seen participants from all over India. We have had students from medical field, we had students from schools, Kendra Vidyalaya, and also from corporates. So we have a presence on our Twitter handle. Our Twitter handle is Palliative Care, it's GRH, where we put up some of the other events that we have been conducting or some of the achievements in our department. And so you all have already heard of Dr. Jayashree Sood. Her interview was recently covered in one of the articles at Amit University's newsletters. And one of our colleague, Dr. Kanika, who's not there in the session today, but she wrote an article about the palliative medicine in express healthcare. Last, I'll just quickly, considering the shortage of time, I'll just like to introduce you about the World Hospice and Palliative Care Day that we are going to celebrate at Gangaram on the 17th, where the doctors and also the general public collect and they discuss about the developments, about their views about palliative care. This time the theme is healing hearts in communities, and this is the itinerary of the program. We are also conducting some competitions for which we'll be sharing the flyer and the notification with Dr. Anita. Whosoever is interested can always share the entries with us. So that is all from my end, but Before concluding, I would just like to say that, it's easier to get into any volunteering or any other activity. Sometimes the challenge comes in sustaining it. So before you pick up something, be it as you must have seen, a lot of you must have thought, okay, let's go into law and everything. And when you're studying law, there may be some challenges that you may find. Not everyone may be becoming a lawyer in a court or in a corporate, but maybe some people are switching their careers after doing their LLB and LLM. So when you get into something, do not expect an immediate gratification. Do not expect an immediate result. These things take time, but have your heart in it, have your thoughts clear, and then that is how you can make a solution. So that's all from my end. Thanks a lot, Dr. Anita, for coordinating all this. And also the CLC Legal Aid Cell, Mohammad Moin, and all the people, and also the alumni, Mr. Akash, and others who have been in touch with. And least to say, but always Dr. Bimla and all the doctors and the support staff at Ganga to always giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insightful and informative PPT. With this, I now open the floor for questions. We already have few questions in the chat box. We have a question from Aditya. He's asking that can we also talk about palliative care with respect to animals, especially dogs?
Yes, 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 yes. You can. In fact, I have a personal experience. I had a Labrador who lived for 14 years, and dog. Everybody knows that they become, family members. And he died of his old age. And towards the end, we were, kept taking him to the hospitals. Then when we were told that nothing much can be done, like as we tell our patients, कि अभी खाली सेवा करनी है. So that's what we did. We fed him, we bathed him. He couldn't even walk. Had very severe arthritis. We got his chest X-ray done and other, blood investigations done. But then later on, we gave up. We just went, he peacefully died. And that is it. It can be done for animals also. It is quite well.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a question from Priyanka. She's asking, can a person patient can get a palliative care?
Yes, yes. As we repeatedly in our presentations, like cancer patients form just a large chunk of the total patients, but gradually the patients with non-cancerous patients, their number is rising, especially heart patients, heart failure. That forms a very, in fact, more patients are dying of heart disease rather than cancer. So it is much applicable to non-cancerous patients, patients with heart failure, severe cases of diabetes, and stress renal disease when the patients are on, getting dialysis, and then respiratory crippled patients who need ventilators or oxygen off and on, and then patients with, say, who are paraplegic or quadriplegic, who can't lower legs or even, so much so that all the four limbs might be affected, or severe muscle dystrophies. They can't, manage their routine, activities. So yes, palliative care is very much for patients with, non-cancer diseases.
Ma'am, next question we have from Manjushri. She's asking, are there any side effects of palliative care?
I don't see any, side effect of palliative care, because it is basically a symptom relief. See, all the say, even if the patients who have cancer, they are on chemotherapy. Those patients are quite sick. They have ulcers. They have a lot of pain. So we take care of them. So basically, we are providing symptom relief, providing them psychosocial support and emotional support. So I really don't see. Not to Puneet, would you like to say something?
I believe palliative care is a comprehensive care given to patients. It is not just physical, but it's psychosocial, spiritual, everything, right? So palliative care, it's a comfort care we treat patients as human beings. So I don't see anything which can be of side effect. It is always a bone to medical industry.
Thank you, sir. We'll be taking the last question. Last question is from Gargi. She's asking, in certain cultures, discussions about the end of life are considered a taboo. Is there any cultural exemption from this requirement?
No, I would say that this question is a very wide statement. In most of the cultures, I mean, it is a taboo. People don't want to talk about it. Like there's an elephant in the room and nobody wants to acknowledge it. And in the West, some attempt has been made. They have cafes have sprung up, in the big cities, and they want to talk about death in, say, normal circumstances. So that, in fact, people, then when they talk about it, they become anxious. And there is this term also there known as, death anxiety. And so I don't know if there is any, cultural exemption from this. Puneet, you want to say something?
हमारा एक पेशेंट जो था जैनी जो रिचुअल्स फॉर्मेलिटी थी तो उनका था कि विष्णु सिटिंग में लेके जाने के लिए था बट अगर राइडर नोटिस हो गए तो भी काम अलाउ टू परफॉर्म करते हैं
हाँ नहीं वो राइट्स का है बट ये नहीं है कि कल्चर आई डोंट रियली सी दैट because I remember there was a word conference and the critical care experts had gathered over there, and they were talking about Chinese that they don't like the patients to die on the bed. So even when the patient is on ventilator, they wanted that if the patient is going to die, they wanted the patient to be put on the floor. I mean that was quite new to me. I had not heard about it, so I don't think any culture is exempt for this. And in fact, care of the dead there, for people across all religions. I mean, the Hindus, the Muslims, Christians, everybody has been, doing, they have been caring for their patients who are dying. And as we know that King Ashoka, 18 such institutions to take care of the, dying people. And there is, we all know about it. There is a refuge for the dying patients in Varanasi near the sacred Ganga.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking all the queries from our students. With this, we have come to the end of the session. I now invite the faculty convener of Legal Aid Society, Ma'am Anita Yadav, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Akshita. So, dear friend, with this, we have come to the end of this session. And it's my honor to propose the vote of thanks for this awareness program, which is organized by Legal Aid Society Campus Law Center in collaboration with the Department of Palliative Medicine of Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi, on the topic of principal and legal aspect in palliative care. Before I officially conclude this successful completion of this program, I would not be doing a justice if I do not acknowledge the invaluable contribution of certain stakeholders without whose guidance and support the success of this program would not have been possible. So I would like to start by extending my heartiest thanks to all the guest speakers for today's session. I would like to thank Dr. Jayashree Sood ma'am, Dr. Bimla Sharma ma'am, Dr. Puneet Rathore sir, Ms. Sunita Sharma ma'am, and Tushar Jain for enlightening us today and also sparing their time out of their busy schedule and for gracing this occasion. It has been really a pleasure listening and learning from all of you, ma'am and sir. I also take this privilege to thank our beloved professor in charge, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla ma'am, for her invaluable support and guidance. Ma'am has always been extremely supportive to our team of Legal Aid Society Campus Law Center in showcasing the successful event like this. Ma'am, this would have not been possible without your mentorship and unwavering guidance. Next, I would like to thank all my teacher member of the Legal Aid Society, Dr. Narendra Kumar Bishnoi sir, Ms. Isneh Yadav, Mr. Vijay Panikkar sir, Dr. Atma Yadav ma'am, Mr. Ezekiel sir, for always being so supportive and kind. I also would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to our dedicated executive student body consisting of Vinayak, Shehbaz, Akash, Shagar, Akshita, Ashish, Gargi, Manav, Manjusha, Mohammad Moin, Priyanka, Sanskar, Sarthak, Saurabh, and Shashank. They have worked tirelessly to make this event successful one. Last but not least, I would like to thank all our students and attendees for being so patient and whose enthusiastic participation has made this program a resounding success. So with this, I conclude my vote of thanks. Thank you all for being a part of this awareness program, and I hope that we see you again in all other future events. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
such endeavors future also.
Thank you.
And
Thank